Good evening, good afternoon, I should say, everybody. How's everybody doing today? This beautiful, chilly day here in the Northeast. Day after Thanksgiving. Hope everybody had a great turkey day. Everybody was safe and happy, enjoying it with their friends and family. And if you spent it by yourself, I hope that's the way you wanted it to be. There are a lot of people that want to do that. Thought hard on not having the show today, but I did not let Northeast Streaming Sports know we would not be live on Roku, so I didn't want to leave anybody hanging. So here we are. We'll kind of go through there's some news to talk about, some player signings and the trades, new manager in San Diego. So we want to welcome everybody watching, of course, on TGI Sports Talk, on Let's Talk Sports. TGI Sports Talk, you could be watching us on Facebook, YouTube, anytime live. We do our shows. Twitter at times. You can also watch us on Let's Talk Sports on YouTube. And later on, we share the show to their Facebook page as well. Doing great stuff over there, great content. Tanner D's doing a good job picking up for our boy Dave Harris, DDH, thumbs up to you. And also you can watch us on Northeast Streaming Sports, Facebook, YouTube, and live at 3 o'clock on Fridays. You can watch the show on the Nessup Roku app. If you want to download the channel, it's free. If you go to the Roku channel, it's a free download at this time, and you can watch those shows live. The only problem is you can't comment. That's the only problem. Don't know how many people have with us today. Again, this Black Friday, we had a great morning with Are You Serious? Check that out later. We had a raucous room for a while and fed off the audience's comments. Somebody thought I was an evil villain, which I don't know what that's about. But it made for fun. It was a fast hour. I didn't really prepare anything with the holiday and being busy, so we kind of winged it, winged it, whatever's right, and did well. So again, hopefully everybody had a good Thanksgiving. We'll talk some Major League Baseball. We'll get into some of the trades and whatnot. If we do have some people in the room, we'll feed off your comments or questions. Anything you want an opinion on about this Major League Baseball offseason, feel free to let me know. We'll be getting into more the free agency and whatnot soon. We got the winter meetings coming up in a couple of weeks. The free agency will pick up then, and probably nothing big's going to happen until Ohtani signs. And I did have said, and I will continue to say, I believe it will be with the San Francisco Giants. We'll see how that goes. A couple of our rest in pieces today. First of all, I just found out about this one. Ron Hodges, who spent his entire 12-year major league career with the Mets. He passed away today at 74 years old. Basically a backup throughout his career, capable backup, capable defensive player. And he played on a 73 Met team that went to the World Series. And he did catch a complete game victory down the stretch for the Mets that Tom Seaver pitched. So did pretty well in his rookie season and helped them out as they were. This was a wild pennant race, if you remember. They won the division with 83 wins that year, I believe, maybe 82 wins. So anyway, rest in peace. Our condolences go out to Ron's family, of course. Also passing away this past week was Willie Hernandez. Willie Hernandez was it's funny. He went from a journeyman player. He had been in the major leagues. Let's see, how long had he been in major leagues before he got to Detroit? Almost 10 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years in the major leagues. Pretty much as a journeyman, really, never didn't save a lot of games, didn't win a lot of games, didn't pitch a lot of innings. He did a couple of years. He pitched over 100 innings. But in 1984, 1984, he had a dream season, as did the Tigers. They got off to that 35-5 start, remember? And Willie Hernandez was a huge part of this. He went from a guy who was just knocking around the major leagues with a couple of different teams in Philadelphia and the Cubs, and he won the Cy Young and the American League MVP in the same year, which has only happened a handful of times. And Willie Hernandez did it with 32 saves. What do you have victory-wise? I don't know that he won a lot of games. 8 wins. I'm sorry, 9 wins, 9-3, and 32 saves. Made this All-Star team. As I said, Cy Young, MVP. They win the World Series over San Diego that year. You maybe remember some of that. I mean, the big moment. Detroit pretty much had their way with San Diego, but it was pretty much over in Game 5 with a 3-1 lead game-wise. San Diego still in the game. Tigers put a couple men on, and Sparky Anderson decides to pitch to Kirk Gibson. Actually, that's Sparky Anderson. Dick Williams. Not a good move. Goose Gossage wanted to try to get Kirk Gibson out. Macho man that he is or was, at least player, he's still with us. And that was it. So Willie had a couple of big years, 3 years in a row. He was an all-star with the Tigers. And then he kind of reverted back to his kind of journeyman ways to finish out his last few years in Detroit. But, a legendary figure in Detroit for those couple of seasons and that one specific season where they won the World Series and had just a tremendous year. So our condolences go to Willie's family and friends. We're losing too many people of my age, 63 years old. We're starting to lose a lot. I've talked about this the last couple of years on my podcast, and a lot of great players from the 70s and 80s are no longer with us, and that's not going to get better. And the only way I don't see more of this is if I'm not here, and that's really not an option for me. I like it here a lot. So anyway, that's the news as far as some sad news of people that have passed away here recently. The big news, I think, this week, couple of big things. We'll talk first about the Padres hire a new manager. No big surprise here. Mike Schlitt, who'd been in the organization for a bit after doing a really good job with the Cardinals, I thought, getting him in the 3 straight playoffs and winning the Manager of the Year award in 2019. He was unceremoniously dismissed after the 2020 season. I believe it was 2020. He did a great job. 3 straight playoffs appearances. What are you supposed to do? You're not going to win the World Series every year, but they let him go. And he was hired, given a 2-year contract to replace Bob Melvin. He knows some of these players, and this is not going to be an easy job. Bob Melvin found out it wasn't an easy job. Now they've lost. Recently, the owner and chairman of the board had passed away. Peter Seidler, sadly, at the age of 63 here this past week as well, or a couple of weeks ago now. So the Padres in a little bit of disarray. Questions about Soto, whether they're going to sign Soto or trade him. We'll be talking about that in the weeks to come. A lot of talk about Soto coming to the Yankees. And I've said before, I don't want Soto. Not that he's not a great player, great hitter, but he doesn't play good defense. You need to play good defense. He's going to play left field in Yankee Stadium. He is not a defensive player that can play left field in Yankee Stadium. He just isn't. So anyway, that's one of the decisions the Padres will have to kind of take a look at. They got some great players there. We'll see if Schlitt can do any better than Bob Melvin, who did move on to the Giants, as we know. Some other big news this past week, since we talked last, is Aaron Nola, who was one of maybe the premier pitching with Ohtani not being able to pitch at least next year. Aaron Nola really was the prize, I think, pitcher in the free agency. He resigns with the Phillies, 7 years, $172 million. He's not a young guy. How old is Nola? He's got to be 30. How old is he? 30 years old. 7-year contract. These guys just never learn their lessons here. It's a long contract for a guy in the north side of 30. They had him ranked, the Athletic had him ranked second on the MLB top 40 free agents big board. Didn't have a great year this past year, but he's pitched pretty well the last several years for the Phillies. And he's pitched well pretty much since he came up. And I like him, but now he sets, looks, it's going to get expensive to get these free agent starters, I'm telling you. So the market's kind of been set for this offseason. As there's some guys with better numbers. There may not be better pitchers, but there's guys with better numbers. In fact, Lance Lynn, who, by the way, looked like me out there on the mound this year, both with his physique and his pitching performance with the White Sox and later with the Dodgers. He gets a 1-year deal with the Cardinals, who he pitched pretty well for in the past, for $10 million. Let's see what else is going on around the Major League Baseball. A strange move, I think a strange move. The Diamondbacks trade for Eugenio Suarez. They didn't give up much. They trade Carlos Varga, right-handed pitcher, and a veteran catcher in Seibi Zavala. Hiccups. Suarez, he's hit 21 home runs at a minimum every year. The lingering effects of COVID. Sorry. He's hit at least 21 home runs, and every year he's been in the majors, which is 7 full seasons. But he doesn't hit for average. I mean, gosh, I bet you his career average is, here's what he did this past season, for instance. 22 homers, 96 RBI. Sounds pretty good. Hit 232. 214 strikeouts, guys. He's the ultimate in today's 3 true outcome baseball. Home run, walk, strikeout. And it really, in my mind, goes against one of the reasons I liked and didn't, look at it. I enjoyed watching the Diamondback games. I'm a Yankee fan. I root for the Yankees. I don't really root for other teams. I really don't. Once in a while, if there's some money on another team, I'll root for them. Same way in all my sports. But I enjoyed watching the Diamondbacks playoff run because of the way they played baseball. I liked the way they put the ball into play, and they had runners in motion, and they did a lot of the things that I like to see in a baseball team, things I'd like to see the Yankees doing. This doesn't fit the mold. Now, I know they had, a bit of a hole at third base. Evan Longoria had a decent resurgence last year, but he's a free agent as well, and they had no choice. I don't think they had any thought of re-signing him at 38 years old. So this is an interesting move, and if he actually is going to be the third baseman, I don't know. You can look at things like WAR and I don't get into all those things because to me they're made up stats. You have to make great assumptions in my mind to even calculate WAR, and there are multiple places that do it multiple different ways, which is one reason I think it's a bogus stat. I mean, stats that mean something should be stats that are only accounted for one way. Batting average and on base percentage and slugging average are what matter in baseball. But you can hit 200, and if this formula says your WAR is 3, well, then you're an exceptional player, and I'm not buying it. Not gonna buy it. Haven't bought it up till now. I'm not gonna start. Oh gosh. So, any thoughts you have on any of that? Please. First of all, I can't believe the Phillies signed Nola to a $172 million contract. Guarantee he breaks down next year or early or sometime during this contract, he'll break down. 172 guaranteed dollars. Makes no sense. Paul DeJong, free agent, has signed with the Chicago White Sox. Paul DeJong had some good years with the Cardinals. He was an all-star in 2019. Again, another guy with a low batting average. He's got some pop and a decent glove. But last past season, 220, 14 homers, 37 RBIs. Not a huge fan. His career batting average is 229. This is what we're looking at in baseball now, guys. Tim Anderson, they let go. They would have had to pay him $14 million. How much are they going to play DeJong? I don't see the details of the. It's pending a physical, so they haven't even announced the numbers. But if they're paying him anywhere near what they paid Tim Anderson, and they let Tim Anderson walk away for Paul DeJong, bad move. I mean, Tim Anderson didn't have a great year this year, but he's still a very good player, and he's much better than Paul DeJong. But congratulations to him. The World Series champion Rangers earned $506,000 from the record playoff pool money that was available. A full postseason share for each player, $506,000. It's just down, I should say. The total money available, I believe, was bigger, but the total for the winner was down a little bit from what the Astros got in 2022. The total pool was $107.8 million, which topped last year's by $300,000. Hey, that's life-changing money for some of these guys on this team that's not making, $10 million, $20 million a year. Who else? What else? I think Arizona got $313,000, up from $296 for the runner-up Philadelphia last year. The other full shares. This is per player. Don't forget. You remember when it was a big deal to players to be able to get a $7,000 World Series check. Because it keeps them from having to work in the offseason. 173 for 70,000 for Houston, 171, I should say, for Philadelphia. And then we dropped the 43 for Baltimore, 43 for Atlanta, 42 for Minnesota, 36 for the Dodgers. And just for making the playoffs, 10 million for Miami, 9 for Toronto, 8 for Tampa, 8 for Milwaukee. Not that long ago, that was what the winners were getting. Ian, good to see you today, buddy. My friend from down under. There is far too much money at the top level of sports. I agree, but you know what? Money talks, and as long as networks are willing to pay astronomical amounts, then I don't blame the players. A lot of people blame the players. It's the owner's fault. Because my theory has always been, if somebody's willing to pay you, then you're worth the money. I'm not saying you earn it, but you're worth whatever somebody's willing to pay you. So don't blame the players for this. Blame the owners. And blame Major League Baseball, because when the owners have tried to stop this, well, then they get sued for collusion. I mean, in the league where 30-year-old Aaron Nola, who's had a good career, only a handful of really outstanding seasons in my mind for Aaron Nola, and last year was not one of them, by the way. He gets $172 million guaranteed over 7 years at 30 years old. Now, I get part of this is for past performance, right? Especially since you're re-signing with the Phillies. But you're right, Ian. I don't think they're making that for Australian rules football, are they? Or is that the game we're playing over there? I always mix that up. I keep promising to learn more about this, but anyway, that's some of the news. We'll look at some other things. Oh, Mets and Yankees both hire bench coaches this year. Very interesting choices. Carlos Mendoza for the Mets hires John Gibbons, who had 2 stints as the Blue Jays manager. had been out of the game, I think, since I want to say 2021, maybe 2020. Now that I think about it, but a good veteran guy to help a young manager, first-time major league manager. He's managed other levels, so I think this is a good move for the Mets. Gibbons is a good manager. He had a falling out the first time around with the Blue Jays, and I recall that there might have been some issues with players and whatnot, and John Gibbons. But his second time around, he was kind of a different guy, a better guy in the clubhouse, better guy with his roster and players. And the Blue Jays had some success. They didn't win any league championships, but or World Series for that matter. But they had some level of success under John Gibbons, and I think it's good to get a veteran guy there for Mendoza. For the Yankees, bringing in Brad Osmus to be, and I'm not sure that this is Aaron Boone's doing or not. I don't think it is, to be honest with you. I think this is a Cashman. And Brad Osmus is a former major league manager. Aaron Boone isn't a guy who needs that type of presence necessarily on the bench, especially maybe it's a guy that isn't one of his guys. And it's going to be interesting if the Yankees get off to a bad start next year. What happens? You've got a former major league manager sitting right there. Had some decent success with the Tigers for a couple of years before it faltered there. Went to the Angels and got pushed out after 1 year so they could get Joe Madden. Very similar to the David Ross situation in Chicago this year for a council. But Brad Osmus now will be sitting next to Aaron Boone in the dugout. And I'm not an Aaron Boone guy. I was okay when he got hired. I actually wanted Rob Thompson, longtime Yankee coach, longtime Major League coach. Obviously now the Phillies manager. That's who I wanted hired to replace Girardi. I thought Boone was an interesting choice at the time, but to me, he's lost some stock every single year, every year. Just too much rationalization of mistakes on the field by his players. It's one thing to have your players back. It's another thing to enable them to continue to make the same mistakes day in and day out. And that's what's happened with this Yankee team. I'm not sure I want Brad Osmus replacing him. Average wage for the middle tier players in the AFL is around $1 million per year. So that's the middle tier. What's the top tier? Again, we know what our top tier baseball players and football players are making. Even basketball players, your top guys are $30 to $50 million now. Now, Ohtani might be a $60 million player. And what's the minimum? Ian, so do me a favor and put up the minimum and the max, or not the max, but you know what I mean. Minimum wage for Major League Baseball is now about $750,000, I think. Let me see. Let me just verify that. I don't think I'm wrong. Minimum MLB salary 2023. Pretty close, huh? $720,000. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. God bless them. So there you go. I mean, the last guy in a bench in the Major League Baseball is nearly making as much as your middle tier players in the AFL. Now, again, Ian, while the game is the most popular game in Australia, I'm assuming, and maybe in other parts of the world. Again, I know there's a difference between rugby and Australian rules football, but the game is played elsewhere, I believe. It's all about money, though. These teams can afford to pay because TV foots the bill. Yes, they charge an astronomical amount for tickets and whatnot. It does cost us, the fans, a lot as well. Not just, even if you don't go to the ballpark, all your TV rates go up, whether you're still wired with cable, or whether you're streaming, you're paying for all of these games. And people who don't want to watch the games are paying for them as well. So that's the way it is, and that's the way it'll continue to be, unfortunately. Excuse me. Let's see. Yamamoto, the prize free agent from Japan, he did post a Major League Baseball free agency. Do we know what the money is? He's 25 years old. He's expected to set off a record bidding war that will see some teams, some of baseball's richest finances, paying more than $200 million for his services. But I want to know what the when it comes to these Japanese players, you've also got to pay the posting fee. So you got to pay the team he's leaving just to have a chance to negotiate with him. So I don't know how. I know they made some changes to that rule here a while back, but I don't see. Yeah. Again, be a pitcher, man. You get paid 30 years old. You're getting 172 million guaranteed if you're Aaron Nola. Excuse me. So anyway, congratulations, Yamamoto. He is cleared to be a Major League Baseball starter next year, and we'll see where he ends up. My guess says on the West Coast. He said he wants to play with a team that has other Japanese players on it. While there are a few of those certainly around the East Coast, the Yankees have none now. The Mets do have Senga, which might give the Mets a chance. But a lot of these guys settle out west. And like Ohtani, if he wants to play with the best from Japan, then he's going to go where Ohtani goes. And that's going to be on the West Coast. Mets, Yankee fans, Red Sox fans, whoever you are here in the Midwest, or I know the Rangers think they're a dark horse for Ohtani. I think, he's going to stay on the West Coast. I know everybody likes it to be the Dodgers. I think it might come down to Seattle and San Francisco. And I like San Francisco's chances here. I really do. So we'll see what happens there. Oh, we already know about these award winners. We've already got there. So what else do we have here? What else we got to talk about today? It's on my list. We already talked about the players who passed away. We've got our manager slots are all full now. Let's take a quick look actually at the Hall of Fame ballot for this year, which again will come up. They'll be voting on these pretty soon. I want to look at the old timer list as well. I'll give you my ballot. How about that? Here's the ballot that we have to vote for. I want to make sure this is the whole ballot. You can select up to 10 players. You also choose 75%. If anyone makes it, once your votes are tabulated, we analyze. Yeah, I think these are all the guys. Actually, let me look at I want to look at a different place to do this. I will give you my ballot for the Hall of Fame. MLB Hall of Fame ballot. I want to see if we have the old timers list as well. Here we go. MLB. Beltran and Mauer will debut this year. Adrian Beltran should be a first ballot Hall of Famer in my mind. Who else is on the Joe Mauer, as I said, not a Hall of Famer. Chase Utley, Hall of Very Good. There's some of the more notable names that are on the ballot. They joined some veterans such as Todd Helton, Billy Wagner, Andrew Jones, who have been trending upwards in the voting. We'll see whether that continues this year. I'm going to say Beltran is a shoe-in this year. I don't really know. If I'm going to vote for guys on this, I want to see the ballot. Give me the damn ballot. Let's see what we got here. Is this it? Oh, I got a contemporary. Here's the old timers that are up, by the way, too. We'll talk about this class as well. Cito Gaston. Cito Gaston belongs in the Hall of Fame. Back-to-back world champion manager. No question. Hall of Fame all the way. He was the first black manager to win a World Series. He had a good 11-year playing career with the Braves and Padres and Pirates. Had some really decent years. Not an all-star or Hall of Fame caliber player by any means, but Hall of Fame caliber manager. And I think it's ridiculous that he never got a chance to manage again after the Blue Jays. Davey Johnson. Close. I'm going to say yes. Because I said earlier today on the Mac and Jack show that Billy Martin belongs in the Hall of Fame. Because of the way he turned teams around. Now I know they turned into disarray later on, but he turned some really bad teams around. The Twins weren't that good when he got there. He brought them to the playoffs. The Rangers were atrocious. And he almost took them to the playoffs in the one full year he managed there. He goes to the Yankees. Yankees haven't been to the World Series in 20-plus years. He gets them to the World Series and actually gets them to a World Series championship the next year. So if I'm going to say he belongs in, then Davey Johnson belongs in because he had the same kind of track record. Every team he went to won. What he did with the Mets, well documented. He went to the Reds, weren't very good, and they won. He went to the Dodgers, weren't very good, and they won. He went to the Orioles, they weren't very good, and they won. He took over the Nationals, and if it wasn't for Steven Strasburg's injury, or shutting him down, I should say, they might have won the World Series that year. So great job. Jim Leyland, I'm going to say no. Yes, he won a World Series, but with a team that was put together for 1 year to win a World Series in Florida, where they were the Florida Marlins, I believe then. Great manager. Took the Tigers to the World Series as well. Manager of the year three times, I believe. But no. Ed Montague, former umpire. No. Hank Peters, 42 years in baseball front offices including the Browns and the Reds before going the A's general manager. Also worked with the Orioles. His best work probably came with the Orioles. I'm leaning towards yes. Yes. For Hank Peters. Lou Piniella? Close, Lou, but not there. Joe West? Yes. Very polarizing figure, but put Joe West in the Hall of Fame. And Bill White, just for his service, a very good player. His overall service to the game, very good player, very good broadcaster for the Yankees, and he did some work for ABC as well during the playoffs. And then he served as National League president for 5 years. And I think Bill White deserves to be in that Hall of Fame. So let's see. That's that. Let me find if I can find the other. And I'll give you my votes. I don't want to look at this. I want to look at the ballot itself. Give me the ballot. I think if I go to the Hall of Fame, I get it. Here we go. Oh, by the way, how does Scott Rowland get in the freaking... This is this year. Let's see. I can't even get... That's last year's. Let me try here again. I'm voting yes for Beltran, by the way. Let me just see if I can do it from here. Other notables returning. Helton. I'm not voting for Todd Helton only because of the Colorado syndrome, right? I mean, the guy had much better numbers at home than away. And I don't know. There's something about Todd Helton. Great fielder, great player, great teammate. Didn't win. I say no. I say no to Billy Wagner. Billy Wagner, both of these guys were close last year. They were all within the seventh close. Helton fell just short. He's probably going to get in. He got 72% of the vote, and I don't think anybody's ever got that many that close and never got in. Wagner had 68% last year, a 17-point jump. And Andrew Jones, I'm leaning towards yes because he was such a great defensive player as well as an offensive force early in his career. I say yes. Gary Sheffield, who jumped up to 55% last year, a 15-point jump. He'll have a shot. Again, I think he's a Hall of Very Good. I think Beltran, Carlos Beltran, Hall of Very, Very Good. Manny Ramirez in. It's the steroids that will keep him out. Omar Vizquel, no. Andy Pettit, no. Bobby Abreu, no. Jimmy Rollins, no. Mark Burley, no. Rodriguez, no. Torrey Hunter, no. And I'm not voting for 10 guys just because I have 10 to put on my ballot. That's my ballot. You got it. You've got Beltran, or Beltray. Sorry, not Beltran. Beltray. Andrew Jones. And Gary Sheffield. I'll vote for the World Series, for the Hall of Fame right now. Great players, all. Rookie players start. Here's our Australian Rules football update. So rookie players start around 200,000. It can get up to 1 million if they're the best players. Okay. Sport only played in Australia. I thought there was some. There you go. Small amateur level Australians. Also, a women's league that has just gone pro. I know there's a couple Americans too. One was profiled. I can't remember the guy's name, Ian. He was profiled on 60 Minutes here, I don't know, a year ago, maybe less, maybe 9 months ago. Seemed like a very popular player over there. Big, tall guy. He's a college basketball player here. So very interesting. So there's my Hall of Fame ballot. Excuse me. I'm going to put a lozenge in here. The votes have to be in by December 31st for this Hall of Fame election. Very interesting. Adrian Beltre, first ballot Hall of Famer, without a doubt. Best fielding third baseman of his era. Won MVP awards. Went to World Series. Very good hitter. And I think we're going to stick with that as our choices. Mason Cox, thank you. He was with the winning team this year. Good for him. Good for him. Is he as big a star as I was led to believe that he is over there, Ian? I would love to know. We got to turn this into the Australian Rules football hour during the offseason, maybe. Let's see what else is going on out there. Let me look at the rest of this ballot. Is there anybody I would vote for that I didn't mention? Adrian Gonzalez, no. Mark Burley, no. Colon, no. Bautista, no. I'm not even sure how these guys stayed on the ballot. David Wright, no. It's a shame. David Wright would have had a chance, but for the injuries. Very similar to Don Mattingly. And by the way, the Veterans Committee, time to give Don Mattingly some consideration as well. Whatever we call this committee now. It's time to give him some consideration. A-Rod is on the ballot, by the way. He will not get my vote. He will not get my vote. It's funny. I really feel like the steroid guy should be in with asterisks. I might have to amend my... I guess I have to vote for A-Rod if I'm going to vote for Manny. It's very hard. I mean, again, I think they should be there. Bonds should be there. You can't have a Hall of Fame without Barry Bonds. You can't have a Hall of Fame without Pete Rose for different reasons. You need to put these guys in and tell the whole story. They cheated the game. They cheated themselves. They cheated whatever you want to call. Pete Rose bet on his own team. Was banned for life. Tell the story. I mean, these guys are all over the Hall of Fame anyway. Barry Bonds and Rose and Clemens. They're all over the Hall of Fame. They just don't have a plaque. Well, I say, give them a plaque and tell a story. Good and bad. Said this for a long time. How do you have a Hall of Fame without Pete Rose? I mean, what he did is unconscionable because, I mean, again, he doesn't get it. He says he never bet against his team. And even if you believe that, what Pete leaves out, and most people will believe, and as I do, if he was betting on his team every time he thought they could win, then the nights he didn't bet on them, he was betting on them to lose. Just because there was no money didn't mean he didn't have a and it's also going to affect the way he manages, because he might want to bet on tomorrow night. So, again, what Pete Rose did was dead wrong, but he was a Hall of Fame baseball player, and the gambling did not affect his play on the field. Tell the story. Put him in there, tell the story. Cautionary tale, boys and girls. Hate that. It's 3:40. We're not going to go too much longer here. I see we got a few people in the room. If you got some comments, you got some questions about the offseason, whether it's the Hall of Fame we just talked about, whether some of the trades or signings we've had so far with Aaron Nola, Segura, pending free agencies of Ohtani and Bellinger and Yamamoto. I'm happy to answer those, but if we don't have questions, I'm probably going to wrap up early today. We'll see how it goes. We'll look for a few more things to comment from my end. I'm still fried, by the way. This whole Craig Counsell thing went down. The way he used the Mets and his friend David Stearns sucked. The way he negotiated for a job that a guy already had, and David Ross with the Cubs, sucked. I mean, he did right by managers. He wanted to become the highest paid manager in Major League Baseball history to help other managers, but what doesn't get told in there, he didn't do it for totally altruistic reasons. He's not Curt Flood here, giving up his career for other guys to go out and make millions. He's also benefiting. 6'11". Cox is good player, 113 games, not elite, but only American currently playing, so he gets a lot of attention. Good to know. Thanks for that information, Ian, our good friend down under, who brings us up to speed on Australian rules football. It's going to be interesting to see if that sport continues to grow. And then you know what's going to happen, Ian? The sport's going to continue to grow, and they're going to get more and more money. I don't know. Again, the other thing, if you have comments about the Mets and Yankees, I said that it was interesting. I think John Gibbons' hire for bench coach for the Mets was a very good move for them. Some experience for Mendoza to kind of grow. I don't think the hiring of Brad Asmus was as good a move for the Yankees or Aaron Boone. If you just want Aaron Boone out, then having Asmus next to him, at least there's somebody to take over the reins if they were going to fire him during the season, where there hasn't been before. They weren't going to hand the reins to his bench coach then, which was Carlos Mendoza. But I don't really want to see Brad Asmus managing his team either. He's just another puppet for Cashman. Nobody wants to see that. There's a player poll recently, too, and I never did touch on this, about what they thought about, some of the players poll about their thoughts on new rules, expansion teams, and Ohtani. So they were, if they were starting a team today, this was asked of Major League Baseball players, who's the first player you would sign? Ohtani was picked by 45% of the players, Judge by 14%, Acuna by 9%. Acuna's a great player, man. And Adley Rutschman, interesting enough, catcher for the Orioles, 6% almost. So that's an interesting start right there. Which team do you think Ohtani will be playing for next year? 57% said the Dodgers, 11% said the Angels, 7% said the Mets, Padres, 7% also said the Mets, 6% said the Yankees. I don't think the Yankees Mets have any shot. The other three teams do, and the team that I think he'll sign with, not even on this poll. What's the best potential? Can't expand. Can't expand when you got teams leaving Oakland to go to Vegas, when you got Tampa Bay considering playing half their games in Montreal, and other franchises not as solid as they should be. But Nashville wins this easily. Nashville deserves a Major League Baseball team in my mind. 69%. Montreal, 10. You didn't support your team before. Why am I going to give you another team? Charlotte. I thought this would be higher, 5%. Austin, 5%. They're not putting a team in Austin. You already got 2 teams in Texas now. Portland, 4%. Oh, there's a great Netflix. Oh, God, I can't think of the name of it now. Great documentary about a independent team that played in Portland in the 70s. Kurt Russell's father, Bing, owned the team, and it's a really great documentary if you want to watch it. You want to check it out. Vancouver, 2%. Salt Lake City, 2%. What you got here? AFL is actually the most attended sports league in the world compared to the country's population, and the 4th highest attendance outright. Interesting. Next question on the poll. Are the new rules good for the game? Score each on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the best. Banning the shift. The players thought just about 4% thought it was good. Or not 4%, 4.9 points on the scale out of 5. Not buying it. What is this? So that's the average. I don't know what mode is. I guess you got to be a math major to do this. Bigger bases, 3.7 points was the average the players put in, and 3.7 for the pitch clock. The only one of these I agree with even a little bit is the pitch clock, because the pace of games had to speed up, and it did what it was intended to do. There was some unintended consequences that I didn't like. I still think there'll be some dramatic moments in games that will get lost because of it, but bigger bases. So you artificially inflated the stolen base numbers because of the bigger bases, which are shorter base paths. I don't care how you look at it. The bases are bigger. I don't have as far to run between them. May seem like a little bit, but watch the number of bang plays. Plus, you can only throw over to first base twice. Once I've thrown over once, pretty much got a free pass. Certainly, if I throw over twice, I do. Should the pitch clock rule be different in the postseason? 60% said yes, 39%, 40% said no. How often are labor issues discussed in the clubhouse? Very interesting. More than usual, 7%. The same, this is so it's, as opposed to other points in their careers, I guess. About the same, nearly 60%, and less than usual, 33%. Good sign for labor, I guess, disputes going forward. I don't know whether you agree with the players, disagree with the players. I'm still not a fan of any of the rules that have been put in, except the pitch clock. I'm okay with a bit. The others, again, all of these things designed to artificially help the offenses. Why ban a shift? Teach guys how to hit the ball where people are not. That's the way I learned how to play. If I had 3 guys standing over here and 1 guy standing over there, well, I'd hit it over there. Teach the guys a right approach to the game, and you don't need to put in these artificial rules to boost batting average. Guys won't be continually just hitting into the shift. Ridiculous. As I've said 100 times, and I'm going to wrap it up probably after this. 100 times I've said every major rule change since 1968 has benefited the offense. The pitchers are up against it, whether we're talking about the strike zone, the mound, DH, smaller ballparks, the balls. Now all these rules about the shifts and whatever else. I'm missing things. But all of it designed to help offenses And if the pitchers try to do anything to get an edge, we're out there checking them for foreign substances right and left. Quit ruining the game, Rob Manfred. All right, guys. Ian, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for bringing us up to date on the Australian Rules football. I've enjoyed our conversation today, as always. I knew we'd have a small crowd being the day after a major holiday here. A lot of guys watching football right now. A lot of guys out shopping on Black Friday with their wives, all pissed off. Sorry for you guys. Keith Engel here for MLB, the MLB update. Catch us Sunday on the Stream of Consciousness, right here on these same channels, and also catch us Wednesday night with the College Football Huddle, and right back here with Are You Serious and the Major League Baseball update next Friday. Check your local listings. Keith Engel for TGI Sports Talk. Have a great weekend.